I went to Beiyang in place of the princess to marry into the royal family. It wasn't until 5 years later, when the army of Nanchu attacked and captured the capital of Beiyang, that I was able to return to my homeland. However, I discovered that someone had taken my place and replaced everything that belonged to me. My parents became her parents, and my home became hers. Even my childhood sweetheart, who had been betrothed to me, fell in love with her. Because I had replaced the princess in the marriage alliance and because of my achievements, she became a frequent guest in the palace, a guest of honor among the nobles, and showered with favors and favors. When I returned, she poisoned my tea. I endured the excruciating pain in my internal organs and saw her hiding behind my childhood sweetheart. Laughing maliciously, I drew the guard's sword and swung it at them. None of you shall live. Let us all go to hell together. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day the southern Chu army breached the walls of Yan's capital. I held the sword to the neck of the Emperor of Beiyuan and waited for the Nanchu army to storm the Taichi Hall. Under their stunned gaze, I raised my eyebrows and said, "General, you have kept me waiting so long." We humbly welcomed the princess back to the court, capturing the Emperor of Northern Yan alive. My achievement was even greater than in my previous life. Therefore, when I returned to Nanchu, the Emperor personally led the civil and military officials out of the city to welcome me. They were welcoming the victorious army, but also Princess Changning, who had married into the enemy country for the sake of the country. 5 years ago, the Emperor was reluctant to part with his own daughter, so he decided to choose a daughter from among the ministers' families. My father, for the sake of wealth and honor, offered me up. The Emperor adopted me as his adopted daughter and bestowed upon me the title of Changning. I bowed gracefully, "Father Emperor, your humble daughter has not disgraced your mission." I assisted the general in destroying the northern Yan and capturing the deposed emperor. The Emperor said with satisfaction, "Good child. Your merit is the greatest." That was exactly what I wanted to hear. From now on, no one can deny that I am a hero of the Southern Chu. That night, a banquet was held in the palace to welcome me and the soldiers. I accompanied the Emperor and Empress and sat down with them. My seat was at the head of the princesses. I wanted everyone to know that I was not an abandoned child. All the torture and humiliation I had suffered in Beiyuan had now become my medals of honor in Nanchu. Anyone who dares to look down on me or insult me even slightly will be committing a grave sin. My gaze swept over the high-ranking officials, noble women, and young nobles below, and happened to meet Song Fangli's eyes. That face, which bore a striking resemblance to mine, with its slightly curved eyebrows and eyes, exuded an air of irresistible charm. She looked harmless, but she was the one who had poisoned me in my previous life. During the banquet, the Emperor asked me with kindness, "Changning's marriage alliance has brought great merit to the state. What reward do you desire?" I replied boldly, "Your Majesty, I humbly request that you grant me a mansion, so that I may live comfortably in the days to come." Those with discerning ears could hear that I was indirectly implying that my parents had been unkind to me. Many strange glances fell upon my parents, making them feel as though they were sitting on pins and needles. This was the karma they deserved. Besides, this was nothing compared to what had happened before. In my previous life, after I returned safely to the capital, they despised me for having been the woman of the deposed Emperor of Beiyang and even wanted me to die to prove my loyalty. Song Fangli has framed me time and again with such clumsy methods. Could they really not see through her schemes? Upon closer examination, they are far from innocent in many matters. The Emperor cast a solemn glance at my father before smiling at me and saying, "I grant your request." I knelt to express my gratitude. The Empress said, when Changning was sent to marry into the royal family, she was just 15. Now she is in the prime of her youth. The Emperor might consider arranging a marriage for her. The Emperor nodded thoughtfully and asked me, "What does Changning think?" My gaze swept over the people below, and when I saw Meng Huiqing, He quickly lowered his head and turned away, as if afraid I would see him, clinging to me as if he wanted me to marry him. We had known each other since childhood, growing up together. Our engagement was cancelled due to the marriage alliance. He fell in love with another girl, and I could fully accept and understand that. But he chose to love that substitute instead, shielding and indulging her as she repeatedly plotted against me. Even knowing she had poisoned me, he still shielded her, watching helplessly as I died from the poison. My pain so intense it twisted my features. That feeling of my internal organs being burned by flames is still so vivid that even thinking about it now makes me feel like I can't breathe. I took a deep breath and said slowly, "Your Majesty, I have just returned to my homeland and would like to rest for a while before discussing anything else." The Emperor agreed. This topic was put aside for the time being. Obviously, many people breathed a sigh of relief. Princess Xiaoning sat next to me and remained silent until the banquet was over. She followed me out. Like when we were children, she timidly called out to me, "Sister Xiangyi." It was Xiangyi Shen, not the title Changning. 5 years ago, it was Princess Xiaoning who was supposed to be married off. Her biological mother, Consort Lu, knelt outside the imperial study for 2 hours before the emperor revoked his order. In the end, I became the one who was married off. Xiaoning lowered her head and said, "I'm sorry." I looked at her bowing head and narrowed my eyes slightly. I resented her in my heart. I resented her for enjoying the glory of being a princess but unwilling to bear the responsibilities of a princess. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been sacrificed. However, more than resenting her, I hated my biological parents even more. They abandoned me for wealth and honor. They even found a substitute to torment me and cause my death. Sister Xiangyi, I know it was my selfishness and cowardice that led you to marry into the enemy camp. I don't ask for your forgiveness, but I just want to do something for you. I stared at her intently. Anything? She hesitated for a moment, then looked at me with determination. Anything. I said 1 inch yes. Zhao Ning was overjoyed and looked at me excitedly. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Because of her guilt towards me, she had helped Song Fangli in every way, allowing an unknown person to become the center of attention among the noble women of the capital. Now I wanted to see how Song Fangli would be the center of attention. At the palace gate, everyone from the Shen family was waiting for me. My father's face was stern, and my mother and Song Fangli were sitting in the carriage. When they saw me coming, not only did they not come forward to greet me, but they even looked reproachful. The palace made by my side, Rong Yu, was a gift from the Empress. She raised her voice and said, "The princess has returned to the mansion. Everyone from the Shen family, please bow halfway." My father looked at me in disbelief, but upon seeing the entourage behind me, he had no choice but to bow in respect. Upon hearing my father's voice, my mother and Song Fangli hurriedly got off the carriage and bowed to me. Under their suppressed anger, I let out a soft snort and climbed into the most luxurious carriage of the Shen family. Song Fangli helped her mother get into the carriage. Rong Yu stopped them. "The princess is in the carriage. Mrs. Shen and Miss Song should take another carriage." Everyone from the Shen family changed their expressions. I loved seeing them wanting to kill me but having no choice but to submit. In this life, it had been 5 years since I had last set foot in the Shen residence. This place had once been my home, but now, the courtyard I had carefully decorated belonged to Song Fangli. My home has become hers. In my previous life, my mother said she had personally arranged another courtyard for me. For 5 years, I longed for my family day and night. Hearing my mother say that, I did not ask to return to the original courtyard. This time, I had all of Song Fangli's belongings thrown out. Song Fangli rushed forward to stop me, accusing me in front of our parents. "Sister, if you want my courtyard, just say so. How dare you throw my things out? That's too domineering. I made a gesture. The old maid walked towards Song Fongli and slapped her twice. One on each cheek. Song Fongli burst into tears. Her tears streaming down her face like pearls. So, I wanted her to cry even harder. With a glance from me, Rongyu said, "That's disrespectful to the princess." 20 lashes. So, the nanny continued to beat her. My father and mother were frantic. They pointed at me, but they were too angry to speak. So they finally put their hands down and didn't say a word. I glanced at them lightly and went into the house to rest. Before dawn, I awoke. For those 5 years, I had to serve the Emperor of Beiyuan like a slave, rising early to cook porridge and brew tea for him. If I failed to attend to him personally, I would be sent to serve even more people. Even though I had been reborn and returned to Nanchu, the scars on my body could not be completely erased. And the habits I had formed were difficult to change. I kept my eyes open, waiting for the sunlight to stream through the window. After washing up, the maid by my mother's side came to deliver a message, scolding me arrogantly for sleeping in and not going to pay respects. I picked up the teacup, and Rongyu slapped the maid across the face. That maid had always been a bully, taking advantage of her position. In my previous life, when I first returned to the mansion, she spread rumors that I was a fallen woman and should commit suicide to preserve my reputation. When I was ordered to marry for political reasons, she saw it as a crime. I immediately wanted to punish her, but my biological parents pleaded with me, accusing me of being cruel and heartless. This time, after being struck, the maid jumped up and shouted, "I am the lady's maid." Rongyu sneered. "I am the chief lady-in-waiting assigned to the princess by the empress." At the mention of the empress, the maid instantly wilted. I had her tied up and taken to the front yard to be punished in public. My mother and Song Fongli arrived quickly. The maid looked at them as if they were her lifeline. "Lady, miss, please save me." My mother accused me as she had in a previous life. She said with deep sorrow, "How could I have given birth to such a creature?" I raised my eyelids slightly and reminded her, "If it weren't for me, would you have this wealth and status? I married into the imperial family for the sake of the country, and even the emperor called me a hero. How can you say I'm a sinner? Are you saying the emperor was wrong?" My mother was so frightened her face turned pale, and she hurriedly denied it. My father finally returned, and I kindly told him how my mother had been disrespectful to the emperor, daring to say he was wrong. My father raised his hand and slapped my mother across the face. I signaled to the eunuch to let her go. The two of them immediately began to wrestle with each other. This scene of dogs fighting among themselves was truly amusing. I had never seen this in my previous life. What a loss. In my previous life, I cared too much about family, which is why they were able to walk all over me. In this life, I took pity on them and let the nanny teach them some manners. I am a princess. In the Shin family, it is not my duty to pay my respects to anyone, but theirs to bow and greet me. In the afternoon, Meng Huiqing came to find me. He was very concerned about me and wanted to rekindle our relationship. I picked at my nails and asked casually, "What about Song Fongli?" He said sincerely, "Xiangyi, she looks too much like you. In the past 5 years, I have thought of you every moment. Only when I see her can I slightly ease this longing. My heart has always belonged to you alone. Now that you're back, how could I possibly think of anyone else?" Doesn't he find that contradictory? But it doesn't matter. The point is, he's using his good looks on me. Such a great sacrifice must mean he wants something big. According to my previous way of thinking, I should play along with him and first figure out his true intentions. But I simply find him too repulsive. I raised my eyebrows and sneered, "You shameless creature. daring to covet this palace. Guards, take him to the imperial clan ministry. Why should I give him the time of day? That would be wasting a precious chance at rebirth. The guards dragged Meng Huiqing to the imperial clan court. I ordered Rongyu to follow and explain the situation to the clan leader. No one was allowed to interfere along the way. My parents and Meng Huiqing's parents all came to plead for mercy. But I remained unmoved. I'd rather stare into space than deal with them. Meng Huiqing was scolded by the clan leader and then released. I didn't expect him to be detained for long over such a minor matter. It was just a way to give him a taste of his own medicine and tarnish his reputation. Let's see how he pretends to be a proper gentleman now. A few days later, rumors about me began to circulate in the capital. They said that when I was in Beiyang, I had lips that everyone wanted to taste. Stripped naked for Beiyang men to dance for. And miscarried 5 or 6 times. Whoever started these rumors. I went straight to the palace and cried in front of the emperor and empress. I am the emperor's adopted daughter. I hold the title of princess. I married into an enemy country. And I captured the enemy emperor. The emperor himself praised me and said that I had done a great service. Now that these rumors are spreading, it is a slap in the emperor's face. It also shows that I sacrificed everything for Nanshu and suffered greatly in Beiyuan. I deserve proper compensation. So what harm can these rumors do to me? Oh, right. If I were weak-minded and cared about a woman's reputation, I might actually hang myself. But I was a peace envoy. I am a heroine. I should be honored by the southern Chu court and revered by the people. The emperor rewarded me with gold, silver, jewels, and silk. His grace is boundless. When I left the palace, my ears were filled with flattery. Even my father avoided my gaze and stepped back 3 paces when he saw me. I stood tall with my head held high. Even if those rumors were true. So what? Those who should feel ashamed are the cowards hiding behind women. Within 2 days, the Ministry of Justice uncovered the source of the rumors. Meng Huiqing admitted that he had sent someone to do it. He wanted to get back at me and ruin my reputation. Meng Huiqing was dismissed from his post. And his father was also reprimanded by the emperor and punished with a year's salary. The princess's mansion was completed. I chose an auspicious day to move in. Gifts to celebrate my new home arrived one after another. I hosted a banquet to express my gratitude. The guests were numerous. And the courtyard was bustling with people. My parents and that stand-in also came. My mother walked up to me, cleared her throat, and said, "Xiangyi, you really are something. With so many distinguished guests present, how could you sit at the main seat by yourself?" I narrowed my eyes and looked at her coldly. However, relying on her status as my mother, she couldn't read the room and insisted on putting on airs in front of me. I sneered. 5 years ago, when father sent me to marry into another family, what did you say to me? My mother avoided my gaze, looked around nervously, and unconsciously took a half step back. In front of everyone, I didn't mind reminding her. Mother said that you and father raised me, and I sacrificed myself for the Shen family's wealth and honor. That was enough to repay your kindness. From now on, you should treat me as if I never existed. You also said that I have a wicked heart. And the thing you regret most is not killing me right after I was born. The entire hall was shocked. And whispers filled the air. What's more, no matter what others said behind my back, I was the adopted daughter of the current emperor, Princess Changning. Those words that slandered me were, to put it mildly, a crime of disrespect. My mother couldn't hide the expression on her face. She looked embarrassed and wanted to lash out at me. But she didn't dare. In the end, she could only sit back down resentfully. My father, Mei, remained hidden, and not only did he not persuade my mother, but he told her to behave herself, making himself look like he was the reasonable one. In fact, he was just a jerk. Song Fangli walked up to Xiaoning and said affectionately, "Princess, I haven't seen you in a while. I've learned 2 new Jiangnan desserts and would like to invite you to try them." She wanted to use Xiaoning to solidify her position. 5 years is truly a long time. Long enough for Song Fangli to forget her own identity. To forget that her place among these imperial relatives was granted by someone else. Zhao Ning didn't give her a friendly look and coldly said, "If you want to work in the imperial kitchen, ask the princes and ministers present here, which one of them is willing to recommend you." Song Fangli froze for a moment, then lowered her eyes slightly, a tear hanging at the corner of her eye, about to fall, making her look even more pitiful and endearing. "Unfortunately, I know nothing of pitying the weak," I sneered, showing no restraint in my mockery. Then I picked up the peeled orange in front of me, broke it into 2 halves, and said to Zhao Ning, "Zhao Ning, I can't finish it all. Here, have half." Zhao Ning's eyes lit up instantly. She ran over eagerly and said sweetly, "Thank you, Sister Xiangyi." I saw Song Fangli's face turn pale as I had hoped. I curved my lips into a smile and had Zhao Ning sit beside me. She sat down obediently, overwhelmed by the attention. Zhao Ning's attitude spoke volumes. I wanted everyone to know that I was back, and no one could replace me. Let's see who dares to fawn over Song Fangli and rush to offer her a life of wealth and privilege now. Song Fangli returned to her seat, and those who had been chatting with her earlier fell silent. Her mother pulled her hand and whispered to her, her voice alternating between pity and anger. It was truly laughable. I endured so much suffering, and they lived in luxury thanks to the wealth I earned for them. Yet not only do they not appreciate my kindness, they want me dead. Is there such a thing in this world? I couldn't help but doubt whether I was truly their biological daughter. It seemed as though Song Fangli was their real daughter, and I was just an adopted child. Song Fangli had climbed higher on the social ladder. Among her bodyguards, there was now the 4th prince. She danced in front of me and falsely accused me of pushing her into the water. I had to take the blame. I grabbed a fire poker and held her underwater, making her drink more water. She threatened me. "Xin Xiangyi, if you dare treat me like this, the 4th prince won't spare you." Unfortunately, someone like me who doesn't care about her life isn't afraid of anyone. As soon as she surfaced, I pushed her back down. I curled the corners of my lips. "Aren't you curious why the 4th prince didn't show up in time? Why isn't he here to save the damsel in distress?" She glared at me with hatred, like a spent arrow. I mercifully told her, "Because he's busy flirting with a beauty." Song Fangli finally showed a look of fear and shouted for help. The one who came to save her was Meng Huiqing. Even though he knew Song Fangli was involved with the 4th prince, he still protected her, pulling her ashore with a pained expression and wrapping his outer robe around her. He said to me with deep sorrow, "Xiangyi, we were childhood sweethearts. If you have any grievances, take them out on me. Don't hurt others." "All right. Go die first." I obediently took the burning stick in my hand and struck him with all my might. Meng Huiqing was struck so hard he couldn't utter a sound. Song Fangli trembled and shed tears. Seeing their pain made me happy, until the general grabbed the firewood stick, snatched it away, and threw it aside. A flash of triumph crossed Meng Huiqing's eyes. No wonder he didn't fight back. He was waiting here for me. But would I be afraid? 5 years ago, the general was defeated in battle and personally led the escort to send me to the northern Yan kingdom for a political marriage. At the border between the 2 countries, I only said one sentence to him: "Send me away to save the country." But where will the general be used? The mighty general, with tears in his eyes, knelt at my feet and swore solemnly that he would rebuild the army and bring me back to Chu. 5 years later, the general kept his promise and led his army to crush the northern Yan kingdom. Upon returning to the capital, the general showed me special favor. I could see that he was a man of strong justice, a sense of responsibility, and a touch of stubbornness. The defeat in marriage alliance 5 years ago. The general had always blamed himself. Therefore, he felt guilty toward me. Song fondly bowed to the general, looking pitiful. Meng Huiqing also endured the pain to express his gratitude. The two of them looked like a pair of unfortunate lovers. As for me, I was arrogant and ruthless. The general shook his head and sighed, then dismissed Meng Huiqing and Song fondly. After they left, he bowed to me and said, "Princess, I have 2 sons. The eldest has repeatedly distinguished himself in battle and is now a guerrilla general. The second son has also achieved success in his studies and has just been assigned his first post. Both are of marriageable age but are not yet married." I was taken aback for a moment, then laughed out loud. The Grand General wants to offer one of his sons to redeem me. I raised my eyebrows. The imperial court has a rule that princes consorts do not hold real power. The general, who was loyal to the country, said, "Charging across the battlefield, bravely killing enemies, is indeed exhilarating and brings glory. But it also means putting your head on the line. If my son has the honor of marrying the princess, he won't have to fight on the battlefield or endure the hardships of a cold frontier. He can stay in the capital and live a life of leisure and wealth as a prince consort. Why wouldn't he want that?" I stared at him intently, but he was sincere and earnest. I couldn't detect a single flaw in his words. He was a great general who had fought on the battlefield. 5 years ago, his defeat and forced marriage were due to internal strife within the southern Chu court, which led to the army being divided and defeated one by one. It wasn't his fault. On the contrary, over the past 5 years, the general had managed to regroup and lead a large army to break through the northern Yan defenses. That was his skill. He led the army to bring me back to Chu. He had both merit and kindness. He has defended the borders and protected the nation, with a family of loyal martyrs. He is the pillar of the southern Chu dynasty and a hero in the hearts of the people. After being reborn, I wanted to kill everyone, even cursing at dogs that passed by. But when faced with the general, I didn't want to put him in a difficult position. I took a deep breath. It was Song Fongli who jumped into the water herself. She wanted to frame me, so I proved her guilt. She climbed onto the 4th prince. If I hadn't found someone to trip him, she would have succeeded just now. If the 4th prince had attacked me, I really wouldn't have known how to respond. The general did not respond. He still thought I was wrong. I lowered my eyes and turned to leave. But then I heard the general say, "The princess should not have done it herself. She should have just given the order." I paused in my steps and couldn't help but lift the corners of my lips. I've learned my lesson. When I went to pay my respects at the palace, I encountered the 4th prince's consort in the empress's chambers. We had met several times before at palace banquets and aristocratic gatherings, so we weren't complete strangers. As I knelt before the empress, the 4th prince's consort knelt alongside me. It seemed she wanted to speak with me privately. She caught up with me and told her attendants to stay back. Then, as if relaying a message, she said, "Changning, the 4th prince wishes to request an imperial decree to make Song Fongli his concubine. I fear she will cause you trouble in the future." I blurted out, "Miss Song is charming and lovely. The prince is truly fortunate." This left the 4th prince's consort speechless for a moment. After a while, she put away her feigned concern and said, "We both know what kind of person Song Fongli is. If she becomes the prince's concubine, you'll have to think twice before dealing with her." I was unmoved. I am a princess who married for the sake of the country. What can she do to me? At most, I'll just close my doors and live my own life. Changning, 4th prince's consort, please rest assured. Changning will not hold a grudge against you and the 4th prince because of Song Fongli. The 4th prince's consort finally pleaded, "Changning, please help me. Song Fongli must not enter the prince's mansion. That's more like it. When asking for help, one must show humility. No one will use me as a pawn for free. I spoke calmly. As far as I know, the fourth prince already has a concubine, several concubines, and several maids. Why can't the fourth prince's consort tolerate Song Fongli? The fourth prince's consort wrapped her arm around mine and whispered. At the beginning of the year, during Princess Zhaoning's birthday banquet, I saw her and the second prince behaving improperly. I turned my head slightly and studied her carefully. She said, "Everyone in the capital believes that Meng Huiqing is using her as your stand-in. They are a pair. The affair between her and the second prince is so well hidden that I can't help but suspect her motives for approaching the fourth prince." I had been away for 5 years. Song Fongli appeared after I left. In my previous life, I had already had someone investigate her. Her past was as clean as a blank sheet of paper. However, she was proficient in everything from playing the qin to chess, calligraphy, and painting, and even understood the etiquette of the palace. Either she was a genius who could learn anything instantly, or she was a spy. I turned away from the fourth prince's consort and returned to the palace to see the emperor. I asked for an imperial edict to see the Marquis of Anil. He was the deposed emperor of Beiyang. After he was taken to the capital of Chu, the emperor did not kill him immediately in order to stabilize the hearts of the people of Beiyang. Instead, he was given the title of Marquis of Anil and placed under house arrest in the Maple Bridge Villa. I showed my token, and the imperial guards in charge of guarding the villa let me in. I saw the deposed emperor squinting his eyes and lying on a deck chair under a tree. He looked very comfortable. I sneered. "It's been a long time. Marquis Anil seems to have lost a lot of weight." He suddenly opened his eyes and stared at me, then sneered in the same way. "The princess has become much more plump, sleeping until late every day, having food brought to me and not having to serve anyone. This is a luxurious life." He stared at me and did not respond. I continued. "I have good news for you, Marquis. The people of Yen are now living in peace and contentment. They all praise the current emperor for his diligence and love for the people, and they write plays denouncing the former emperor of Beiyan for his debauchery and tyranny." I emphasized the words former emperor heavily. He looked at me with a stern gaze. I smiled sweetly, determined to make him angry. He said solemnly, "You didn't come here just to say a few meaningless words, did you?" "Of course not." I opened my eyes wide and lied. "A day as husband and wife is worth 100 days of kindness. So of course I missed you and came to visit." He narrowed his eyes slightly and suddenly laughed softly. "I never knew which of your words were true and which were false." I said, "Marquis, you can trade me a truth for a truth." He looked at me as if he could see right through me and said, "That's your real purpose, isn't it?" I didn't deny it and asked him, "How many spies have you planted in Nanshu?" He said, "So many that I can't even remember. But you can rest assured that with Yen gone, they are now just ordinary people." I pondered the credibility of his words. He asked, "In the past 5 years, have you ever been happy for even a moment?" I told him the truth, "No." He seemed hurt. "You were just trying to flatter me. You were lying to me." In Yen, I forced myself to learn how to pretend overnight, transforming from a punching bag into a confidant. If I couldn't serve him well and make him happy, the consequences would be unbearable. Every time I thought about my days in the northern Yen kingdom, I wanted to kill him. But he said, "When you entered the Tai Hall, I already knew what you were going to do. With the country destroyed and my family gone, I'm willing to help you before I die." He spoke as if he had genuine feelings for me. But I am no naive young girl. I have experienced being abandoned by my family and a near-death experience. His words cannot deceive me. Moreover, in my previous life, he fled and was killed by arrows outside the Tai Palace. In this life, He did not have time to escape. He should thank me. I continued. Marquis, do you remember a woman who looked like me? Who was also a spy? He looked at me blankly, smiled, and said, if she looked like you, I would never have sent her to be a spy. I smiled too, went behind him, put both hands on his neck, and squeezed slightly. Dare you kill me? He didn't move, but I had observed him for 5 years and could hear that his voice, besides a hint of anger, also carried a trace of panic. I laughed and removed my hands. I dare not. I just wanted to scare him, because he used to love scaring me. He said that if I didn't obey him or behave, he would send me to the military camp. He also said he would kill all the attendants who came with me for the marriage alliance, making me bear the responsibility for many lives and turning me into a criminal. Now the tables have turned, and it's quite amusing. Let me calculate how many more days he has left. Song Fongli is involved with 2 princes. As long as we prove she's a spy, the emperor will never spare her life. Beiyang is already gone, and I am the Princess Changning, who has been married to Beiyang for 5 years. Is it difficult to prove that someone is a spy from Beiyang? Of course not. After leaving the Maple Bridge Villa, I took a detour to the Supreme Court before returning to the princess's residence. The eunuch reported that the second prince's consort had sent a note inviting me to a flower viewing banquet. I gladly accepted the invitation. The emperor has yet to name an heir, and the most competitive candidates are the eldest prince and the second prince. My first priority is to confirm whether Song Fongli is connected to the second prince and whether the fourth prince's wife's claims are true. When I arrived, the fourth prince's wife was already there. She was chatting and laughing with the second prince's wife, and the two looked like ordinary sisters-in-law getting along well. The second prince's wife greeted me with a smile and found some kind words to praise me. The mad woman. Just as we were chatting amicably, Song Fongli arrived. Both the fourth prince's wife and I changed our expressions. After all, in everyone's eyes, she was our rival. I snorted lightly. Miss Song, where is your Meng Huiqing? Song Fongli looked aggrieved again and said, Princess, you misunderstand. In the past, Mr. Meng took good care of me because he felt sorry for me, and even more so because of you, Princess. Perhaps it was because she had a powerful backer, or perhaps she felt that she was about to achieve her goal. But she had become bolder. She changed the subject and said, the princess and Mr. Meng have known each other since childhood and have deep feelings for each other. If there is a misunderstanding, it should be cleared up as soon as possible. This made me laugh out loud. I glanced around without showing any emotion. Almost everyone was watching the spectacle, except for Zhaoning and the fourth prince's consort, who showed some concern and anger, while the second prince's consort was observing us. The fourth prince's consort sneered. Changning is a princess. How could Meng Huiqing even dream of her? By saying that, Miss Song is not disparaging Changning, but the emperor and empress, and even the entire imperial family. She had just dropped a huge accusation, and Song Fongli hurriedly apologized, retreating to the side in embarrassment. I gave her and the fourth prince's consort a half-smile. They were about to become sisters-in-law, and for the sake of the fourth prince, they could be rivals or allies. The fourth prince's consort had extended an olive branch at just the right moment. But I couldn't accept it lightly. There was no need to accept it. I waved to Zhao Ning and decided to chat with my kind-hearted younger sister instead. During the banquet, a young maid accidentally spilled tea on my dress while serving tea. I struggled to hold back a laugh. Such a clumsy trick. Did she think I didn't notice something was amiss? The second prince's consort scolded the young maid, apologized to me, and had her personal attendant lead me to a side room to change my clothes. Zhao Ning looked at me anxiously. Sister Xiangyi, did it burn you? I smiled at her. It's warm water, not hot. Zhao Ning sighed in relief. I said to her, Zhao Ning, come with me. All right. Zhao Ning didn't suspect anything and agreed immediately. The fourth prince's consort said, I was just about to ask Zhao Ning to play a game of leaf cards with me. You two go quickly and come back soon. If she hadn't said that last sentence, I would have suspected something was wrong. The maid led us to the side room, took the clothes from the little maid and handed them to Rongyue, saying respectfully, Please change, princess. I will wait outside the door. Xiaoning scratched her head dumbly. Sister Xiangyi, I'll wait for you by the screen. I giggled. Just a little water stain. It'll dry in the breeze. Huh? I made a shushing gesture, signaling her to come quietly to the window with me. Sure enough, someone was waiting there not far away. From the silhouette, it was undoubtedly a man. Zhao Ning was kind and innocent, but she had grown up in the palace, so it wasn't difficult for her to guess what was going on based on the details she had just heard. Someone knocked on the door. The second prince's consort is worried that the princess will catch a cold, so she sent me to bring you a bowl of ginger soup. Rongyu opened the door. It was another maid from the second prince's consort. In front of the maid, I took 2 sips and then casually placed the bowl on the table. The maid said, Princess Zhaoning, the fourth prince's consort has asked for you twice. I pretended to be dizzy, reached out to support my head, and said, Zhaoning, you go accompany the princesses first. I'll rest for a while and then go over. Zhao Ning followed the maid out. Soon after, a large group came looking for me. Unspeakable sounds came from the side room. The fourth prince's consort asked, Has Chang Ning been in the side room the whole time? The second prince's consort said, It can't be Chang Ning. Stay away. There was much discussion among the crowd. After all, she has been married to the Northern Yan for 5 years and has long since lost her sense of propriety and shame. She is not even filial to her own parents. The previous rumors were not without basis. Who knows? She's not a real princess. With something like this happening, how can she still have the face to call herself a princess? Behind them, Zhaoning's eyes were red, and she was even angrier than me. I persuaded her not to be angry, then curled the corners of my mouth and said loudly, I was just looking for you guys. I wondered where you all went. It turns out you were here. Everyone turned around and looked at me in disbelief. The voices from the side room continued to carry out. The 2 princesses glanced at each other, their expressions changing, and they suddenly pushed open the door and rushed in. True sisters-in-law. Even their expressions and actions were in sync. Soon, screams echoed from the side room. The second prince's concubines' maids blocked the door, preventing others from entering. But those in front still saw what was happening. The 2 people engaged in illicit relations in the side room were the second prince and Song Fengli. This was a carefully orchestrated scheme involving multiple parties. Song Fengli and the second prince had been in cahoots. She had bribed the second prince's personal attendant to buy off the second prince's consort's personal maid. Her plan was to send me to the fourth prince's bed during the second prince's consort's banquet. However, neither of the 2 consorts were pushovers. They had both discovered the plot. The second prince's wife decided to use my hand to eliminate Song Fengli. She had another maid bring a bowl of ginger soup, which contained an ingredient that would enhance the effects of the sleeping potion in the side room. If I fell into the trap, I would have to kill Song Fengli, although I would never spare her anyway. The second prince's wife didn't know that, and she wanted to push me into it. The fourth prince's wife also wanted to eliminate Song Fengli. After I was splashed with water by the maid, she deliberately reminded me of the trap. She was waiting for me to bring Song Fengli over so she could frame the fourth prince as the second prince. Zhao Ning listened to me finish speaking, then fell silent for a moment before asking, Sister Xiangyi, is your health okay? I lowered my eyes slightly. That sleeping potion, I've smelled it countless times in the Northern Yen Imperial Palace. Even the faint scent in the side room wouldn't be enough to arouse desire at the height of passion, let alone harm the body. The real potent ingredient was in the ginger soup. I pretended to take a few sips before pouring the rest into Song Fengli's mouth. The second prince's consort emerged from the side room and dismissed everyone. When she looked at me, her eyes flickered with malice. I raised my eyebrows at her and smiled sweetly. The goal was to make myself look fresh and lively while making others so angry they'd fall ill. The second prince requested an imperial decree, granting Song Fengli the title of concubine. It must be said, she really knew how to handle men. She was also to marry out of the Shen mansion. My parents formally adopted her as our daughter, prepared her dowry, and sent her off to her wedding. My mother sent a respectable housekeeper to invite me over. I sent someone to the Ministry of Justice to inquire. Then I went to the Shen mansion in high spirits. Song Fengli looked down on me and said, "Shen Xiangyi, you schemed against me, turning me into the second prince's concubine. I should thank you. One day, I will trample you underfoot and make everyone know that I am Song Fengli. And you are just someone who happens to look like me." I chuckled softly. "So that's what you care about? Then you should have never used my status and achievements from the start. Just be yourself. Trying to have it both ways is truly laughable." She retorted. "You were sent off in a political marriage, sold to the Northern Yen Kingdom. Everyone knows you're a used-up whore who was slept with by Northern Yen men. You actually think you're some kind of heroine? Otherwise, why do your biological parents treat me like their own daughter but treat you so coldly? You're alive, and you're a stain on their family name." I slapped her across the face. Romeo immediately stepped forward to wipe my hand, unconsciously blowing on it for me. "You dare hit me?" Song Fengli covered half her face, trembling with anger. "Of course I dare." And I slapped her again, making both sides of her face symmetrical. I narrowed my eyes. "I have rendered meritorious service to the Great Chu. This was personally acknowledged by the Emperor. If you dare say the Emperor is wrong, it is a crime of disrespect. I fear even the second prince won't tolerate you. I came here for the marriage alliance with Nan Chu. I am a loyal subject." This was personally acknowledged by the current emperor. Whoever dares to mistreat me is questioning the emperor's words. The marriage alliance is a merit, there is no fault. No one can use this matter to attack me. Song Fengli gritted her teeth and glared at me. "Shen Xiangyi, you won't be able to gloat for long." I laughed coldly. "How long can you gloat? Don't even mention that you haven't even entered the second prince's mansion yet. Even if you did. So what?" She glared at me viciously, then was urged out by the matchmaker. I stood under the corridor, glancing at the scene from afar. There were many guests arriving, and my parents were smiling broadly. Romeo cleared her throat, as if facing a great enemy. Only then did I notice that Meng Huiqing had approached us unnoticed. He stood beside me, looking at the joyful and bustling scene, and sighed. "When you were sent into marriage, I dared not see you off. When she was getting married, I dared not either. When you were in Beiyuan, I was powerless to help. But the second prince's mansion is within the same imperial city. I could protect her in silence." I didn't get angry. Instead, I smiled and said, "Don't come here to humiliate yourself." Moreover, he couldn't protect Song Fengli, because I had already heard hurried footsteps approaching. When it came to the second prince, the emperor would first protect his own son and the reputation of the imperial family, and wouldn't let Song Fengli be implicated. Therefore, the Ministry of Justice would arrive before Song Fengli left the house and take her away. Song Fengli shouted, "I am the second prince's concubine. Who dares to arrest me?" The Minister of the Supreme Court of Justice personally stepped forward and said, "We are here on the Emperor's orders to arrest her. Take her away." Everyone who came to the wedding banquet witnessed the bride being arrested with their own eyes. My parents and Meng Huiqing were also taken away in front of everyone. Someone came up to me and asked, "Princess, what's going on?" I spread my hands helplessly. It's probably because the future concubine has done something wrong. My parents and Meng Huiqing were too closely involved with her, so they were summoned by the Ministry of Justice for questioning. This is quite normal. I believe the Ministry of Justice will investigate thoroughly. The Ministry of Justice worked efficiently. I provided some half-true, half-false clues, and they followed the trail to uncover many things. Song Fangli was indeed a spy from Beiyuan. She came to the second prince's side, and after he saw her beauty, he introduced her to Meng Huiqing. From then on, Song Fangli stayed at the Shen mansion, gradually replacing me. She used her face, which resembled mine, to win the sympathy of Zhao Ning, and exploited Zhao Ning's guilt toward me to become a favored guest among the nobles, stealing many state secrets. However, in the face of absolute power, any schemes are useless. The course of war changes in an instant, and the general's decisions are made based on the actual situation at the time. No matter how much information Song Fangli obtained, she could not sway the course of events. She killed all the Northern Yan spies who knew her true identity, thereby becoming the true heir to the throne. Upon my return to court, I made it clear to everyone that Song Fangli could never replace me. Her face, which resembled mine, was no longer of any use. The second prince sought to place her by the fourth prince's side, which led to the subsequent events. A few days later, the minister of the Supreme Court sent someone to inform me that Song Fangli had died in prison, and my parents and Meng Huiqing could not be released for the time being. I instructed the messenger to convey my message back, according to the laws of the Great Chu dynasty. I would not interfere. The final decision rests with the emperor. To protect the second prince, all responsibility was shifted onto Song Fangli, the spy. My father was dismissed from office, and Meng Huiqing's future was ruined, but at least they were both safe. My parents came to the princess's mansion every day, begging for my forgiveness. When there were many people in front of the mansion, I raised my voice and said, "You claim to be my parents, but you sold your daughter for glory. For the sake of the Great Chu, I would do anything. I would willingly go into a political marriage, but I risked my life to return, and you would rather see me dead. Instead, you treat that spy like a precious jewel. Now that you've been dragged down by the spy, and my father has been stripped of his title, you finally remember me. But there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. I nearly died countless times in Beiyuan. I have already repaid the debt of life you owed me. This is something you yourselves said. But I am different from you. I am not as heartless as you. I will send you monthly allowance money. As for how much and when, that will depend on my mood." The onlookers murmured among themselves, and my parents finally left. The crown prince and Zhao Ning approached. I hurriedly invited them into the mansion. Earlier, I had received a message from Zhao Ning informing me that the crown prince was among the crowd, so I had intentionally spoken that way. The crown prince said, "Chang Ning, you are clear in your loves and hates, loyal and righteous, and utterly devoted to the Great Chu. I hold you in the highest esteem. Should you ever need anything in the future, do not hesitate to ask me." "Thank you, Your Highness. I will return to Chu safely." With the crown prince's words, I felt even better. After the crown prince departed, Zhao Ning told me that the second prince had been exiled to his fiefdom, and neither he nor the fourth prince could stir up any trouble. I nodded. Without absolute certainty, how could I dare to oppose a prince? As long as I handed over the evidence against those two princes, the crown prince wanted to suppress them more than anyone else. Not long after, news came from the Fengqiao detached palace that the Marquis of Anil had died of illness. He had planted a mole to drag the princes down. So how could the emperor spare him? Now he was finally gone. And my good life was just beginning.